afternoon, everyone. As you continue to eat your lunch and enjoy your lunch, we just want to start our program so we can just keep things rolling, if that's okay. My name is Billy Cooper, and I would like to also introduce Miss Deborah Travers, and we are going to be your two moderators for the program this afternoon. Okay, you all have on your program, or on the back of your program, the Negro National Anthem. And so if you will turn to that, we would like to sing just the first verse of that.
Rejoicing, rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as a rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Okay, our first presenter for the afternoon will be Ms. Philomene Nkrumah, and she's going to take us through a journey of Black history. So we would like to invite her to come up to the podium at this time. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to speak about the originator of the Negro History Month. Negro History Week, the original name, Negro History Week. And this is the person whose picture I'm talking about. The Miseducation of the Negro is Woodson's most popular classic work of Black social criticism, drawing on history, theory, and memoir. As both student and teacher, Woodson witnessed distortions of Black life in history and literature taught in schools and universities. He identified a relationship between these distortions in curriculum and the violence circumscribing Black life in the material world, declaring, and I quote, "There would be no lynching of it if it did not start in the classroom." Woodson's primary focus was the impact dominant modes of schooling had on Black youth. This systemic process of miseducation undermined people's struggles for freedom and justice, and it was experience that scholars before it, after Woodson realized and worked to challenge. Noting that African Americans' contributions were overlooked, ignored, and even suppressed by writers of history, textbooks, and a teacher who used them in schools. Woodson argued that students, teachers, and leaders needed to be educated in a manner that was accountable to Black experiences and lived realities, both past and present. The life of Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was a scholar whose dedication to celebrating the historic contributions of Black people led to the establishment of Black History Month, marked every February since 1976. Woodson fervently believed that black people should be proud of their heritage, and all Americans should understand the largely overlooked achievements of black Americans. Woodson overcame early obstacles to become a prominent historian and author of several notable books on black Americans. Born in 1875 to illiterate parents who were former slaves, Woodson's schooling was erratic. He helped out on the farm when he was a young teen with his two brothers, worked in the coal mines of Virginia to help support his father's meager income. Hungry for education, he was largely self-taught and had mastered common subjects by the age of 17. Entering school at the age of 20, Woodson completed his diploma in less than 2 years. Woodson worked as a teacher and school principal before obtaining a bachelor's degree in literature from Berea College in Kentucky. After graduating from college, he became a school supervisor in the Philippines and later traveled throughout Europe and Asia. In addition to earning a master's degree from the University of Chicago, he became the second black American after W.E.B. Du Bois to obtain a PhD from Harvard University. He joined the faculty of Howard University, eventually serving as Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. After being barred from attending American Historical Association conferences, despite a dues-paying member, Woodson believed that the white-dominated historical profession had little interest in black history. He saw African Americans' contributions overlooked, ignored, and even suppressed by the writers of history textbooks and the teachers who used them. For black scholars to understand and preserve black history, Woodson realized he would have to create a separate institutional structure. With funding from several philanthropy foundations, Woodson founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. In 1955, in Chicago, describing its mission as the scientific study of the neglected aspects of life and history, the next year he started the scholarly Journal of Negro History, which is published to this day under the name of Journal of African American History. Woodson's devotion to showcasing the contributions of black Americans bore fruit in 1926 when he launched the Negro History Week in the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Woodson's concept was later expanded into Black History Month. Woodson went to Douglass High School in Washington, D.C. He has a home there. There's a home there where he was living and his office where he created all this information. Woodson died from a heart attack at the age of 74 in 1950. His legacy lives on every February when schools across the nation study Black American history, empowering Black Americans. You're welcome.
Good afternoon. And now we will have Ms. Latifah Bilali speaking on Negro, Black, and Achievers.
Rodney, excuse me, Barbara. It's okay. You'll get a chance to come up. This is what our program has. You are next on our program. So if you don't...
Excuse me, we have different programs. I'll be there.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Just come right on up. We still will enjoy whatever you have to say.
All right, here she comes.
Okay.
All righty.
Good afternoon once again. And I'm going to talk about some Black achievements from our people of color. One of my primary ones that I really enjoy is Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker basically laid out the blueprint for Washington, D.C. There's a Banneker Museum out Frederick Road, that's the way I travel,
just before you get to Ellicott City. Very nice, very senior friendly because everything's even keel to get in. And sometimes they even have jazz shows on the lawn. Nice day trip for a nice fundraiser. Another one of my primary people that I love is Harriet Tubman. Harriet did an extremely wonderful job of leading our people out of slavery in this state of Maryland, taking them all the way to Pennsylvania and beyond, and going back 19 times to bring forward sisters and brothers and parents. God bless her, Sister Tubman. But the person I'm going to primarily discuss today is a little-known achiever, Dr. Mayalana Karanga. Dr. Karanga is an African American who brought to us the celebration of Kwanzaa. It is an African American holiday celebrating Black history. It was founded in 1966 by Dr. Karanga with the hope to educate his people about the African American struggle and their rich heritage culture. It is not a religious holiday. It was not designed to replace or compete with Christmas. Kwanzaa was created to bind the African harvest custom and the social history of the African American. The name Kwanzaa is derived from the East African Swahili, meaning phrase Matunda wa Kwanzaa, which means the first fruits. The second A was added to give the name the 7 letters for the 7 symbols, the 7 principles, and the 7 days of Kwanzaa. The holiday lasts for 7 days, beginning December 26th and ending on January the 1st. During this time, the African Americans are encouraged to spend quality time doing positive things with their children and for their community. December 31st is the Caribou Feast, and that takes place. This is when family and communities unite to strengthen their ties and bonds, to exchange zawadi, which means gift, and to share the camaraderie of eating festive dishes. Family and friends gather at meal times and pass the unity cup from person to person and say positive things that they are thankful for. And then the kodara, which is a candle holder with candles, are lit, and each person recites and names a principle for the 7 days of Kwanzaa. On the 26th, the first day, is Umoja, meaning unity. The next day, Kuchichakalia, self-determination. The third day of Kwanzaa is Ujima, collective works and responsibilities. The fourth day, Ujima, cooperative economics. Nia, meaning purpose, is the 5th day, and Kaumba, creativity, is day 6. On day 7, it's Imani, which means faith. So may the first fruits of the harvest spark a new beginning. Let the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles, guide and inspire you towards greater understanding. That the joy of umoja, which is unity, which is how we're here and why we're here today, fill your hearts with a recommitment of faith. And that the truth and the spirit of the season stay with you throughout the year. Eventually, may you all and we all celebrate a happy Kwanzaa. I give thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. All righty.
And now at this time, I would like to ask Ms. Barbara Pierre if she will come up and introduce and tell us about our guest.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to introduce our special guest, Mr. Rodney Thomas. If you're wondering what Mr. Thomas' connection to us here at Reynoldstown Villa is, you only have to look to my right at the lady with the real pretty white hair. Miss Thelma Daniels is Rodney's mother. To give you a little bit of background about Rodney, he's lived and worked in Baltimore City. He was a police officer for 20 years. He's going to give us his experience as a police officer in Baltimore. He is a self-taught photographer and had the fortune of living in Asia for 13 years. So while living in Asia, he had the fortune to travel to more than 10 countries where he enjoyed taking photographs and pictures of places and people that he met. Rodney is Thelma's youngest son, and it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Rodney Thomas.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. You guys can hear me there in the back? First, I want to say thank God for waking me up this morning, giving me the voice and the opportunity to share this day with you guys and share my story, my journey as a young black man, not so young anymore, but as a black man growing up here in Baltimore. I'm just going to go by the paper here and tell you a little bit about my experience. As a youth, my hero, or the persons that taught, let me see here. As a youth, who were the persons who taught you as a black achiever or admired and modeled? I'm 59 years old, so you guys can do the math. I grew up pretty much from the mid 60s. Most of my childhood would have been in the 70s. The person that I most admired growing up would have been Martin Luther King Jr., who unfortunately had passed away when I was 3 years old. I admired him for his strength and the power of his words for bringing change and awareness, and he exuded selflessness on a global scale. As a teen or a young man who became, I'm sorry, that's number 3 there. As a young man who became a hero for me to admire. I have to say, I had admired myself as I had worked to become my own hero, and I decided to live my life in a way that most people chose not to do, which was I'm just going to do it the way that I needed to do it or wanted to do it. The confirmation came when my late daughter called me her superhero. That gave me validation as I continued my path. While traveling as an adult, the experiences and the differences that I experienced that I believe could help change the citizens here in our country I lived in, as Miss Barber said, I lived in Southeast Asia for over 13 years. My experience is that there's a very different mindset about family in Southeast Asian countries. They have very traditional cultures where they, generation to generation, their thoughts and beliefs about family survives. Each generation it gets stronger. In those countries, I was treated not as a black person, but treated just as an American. So I did not experience any racism, discrimination, or any negativity based on my skin color during those travels. One thing that I did find out and realize is the separation in most of those countries were based on class or status or money. You either have money or you don't have money, so you're discriminated in that sense. What do I remember during some of the history-making times of our nation? To be honest, not a lot. Having a black president, President Obama being elected, was actually a shock for me. I never predicted that. I never thought that would actually happen, but it did. And the last thing that I'll share with you guys is there a better place or country to live in as a man of color? I'll say, I don't know. But we, just as humans, can try to learn to change ourselves first and hope that others emulate this behavior. And I've come to the conclusion that it's hope that we need to bring about change and make our experience in this country a little bit better. And that's it, pretty much.
Thank you so much.
And now we will have our own Miss Billy Cooper bless us with a song.
Well, you have fed me so well this morning, I've gotten lazy. I don't know whether I want to sing or not. I used to hear my grandmother sing this song all the time when I was growing up, and I had sort of gotten away from it. But then I heard it again recently, and I realized it means more to me now than it did when I was younger. Because when you're young, you sing things, you hear songs, because you sing them because you like them, because it makes you feel good. But then I realized that sometimes we have to really look at the lyrics and really try to understand what those lyrics mean and what they mean to you personally. If I can help
as I travel alone. If I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can tell somebody that they might be traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. My living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I travel alone, then my living shall not be in vain.
And now, moving right along, we would ask Miss Sekola Wilson if she will share with us what she has for us today.
I'm going to present Claudette Colvin. Few people know the story of Claudette Colvin.
I'm going to pass it around.
When she was 15, she refused to move to the back of the bus and give up her seat to a white person. 9 months before, Rosa Parks did the very same thing. Most people knew about Rosa and Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott, but began in 1965. But few knew that there was a number of women who refused to give up their seat in the same bus system. Most women were quite fine. Wait a minute, let me slow down, sir. Most of the women was quite fine, and no hand knew much more. Colvin was the first to really challenge the law. Now, at 69 years retired, Coleman lived in the Bronx. She remembered talking the bus home from high school on March 1955, as clear as day was yesterday. When asked why she is little known and why everyone only thinks of Rosa Parks, Colvin says the NAACP and all other black organizations felt Rosa would be a good icon because she was an adult. They didn't think teenagers would be reliable. She also said Rosa had the right hair and the right look. Her skin texture was the kind that people associate with the middle class as Colvin. She fit the profile. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pass the picture around, please.
Thank you.
And now we will have Miss Ella Brown speaking on Harriet Tubman.
I want to go back for. Okay, first let me tell you this. I'm from a family of 9, and it was different things that was mentioned that I just want to go back to. Douglas High School, the real Douglas High School, was right in front of where I grew up at, in the 1600 block of Calhoun Street. The school was so close you could almost touch it. That was the original, that was the old Douglas High School. So that had to have been in the 40s because I was born around that time. Okay, so the other thing it was, I can't think of the Thelma, your son's name, but Rodney. I want to touch on something that he said. What is your name?
Rodney.
Rodney? Oh, okay. I used to go with a guy named Rodney, so I won't say it. Okay, so I imagine I'm going to say the 40s, could have been 30, I don't know. The 3 black policemen for Baltimore City, I don't know whether to say Baltimore, Maryland, but I'm going to say Baltimore City. Because I remember the things that my mother would always tell us. Okay. And their last names was Scott, Gardner, and Butler. They was the only 3 black ones on the force then in Baltimore City. And so I'm moving from one thing to the other. So let me get back with Harriet Tubman, who I chose for that because she was just smart and I liked her. Well, anyway, when I used to travel by using the subway, going to work every morning. And while I was sitting there, I would always think, I would say, heck, I wonder what happened. Because at a certain point, I think it's Cold Spring. From Cold Spring down to, I think, the Lexington Market, the train goes underground. Okay. So, and I kept thinking about Harriet Tubman and how I would sit there and I was just thinking how she made it because there wasn't no books. This is something, I'll get back to the book. But it wasn't no train tracks like I thought it would be. That was a shortcut or that was a way for them to escape. Because so you can imagine, it was dark, just like I'm sitting on that subway. I couldn't see the walls or nothing when you're on that subway and it goes underground. So one thing I want to also bring out, there's different exits like that the subway stops, like Owens Mill, Old Court. But this is what I want you to know if you have never heard this. The deepest end of that they had to dig so far down, the deepest end is at North and Pennsylvania Avenue. That's the deepest part of that tunnel. So, now that was on television. It was also listed in the paper. So when I think about it, they were really right because every morning when I got that subway and I got on those escalator steps at the top and you're going down, it seemed like it took a long time to ride that from the top to the bottom. So I knew that was, anyway. The other thing was, can you imagine, just thinking about it, what Harriet, she slept during the daytime. And there was always dogs on her track where they was trying to track them down. But she did that, just like it was said. Over 300 people, she went back and forth, back and forth. She did it 19 times. Now, in some books, it says 13, but she went 19 times back and forth. Second time she went, it was to pick her mother and father up, and she did that, and they got out. Okay, so then they got as far as Philadelphia, because Philadelphia wasn't slaves there, so that's where they ended up at. So it was really a lot that I wanted to touch on, but I want to get to this. I'm going to throw this out real quick. Anyway, out of the 9 children that my parents had, 2 of my sisters taught school and a brother. So it was 3 of them in there. I don't know how I got caught up in that, but I ended up teaching early childhood ed. Oh, God. For a little, if you can imagine, little 4 and 5 year olds. And like on a weekend or something like that, once they saw me when I came in, "Yes, Miss Ella, hi, Miss Ella. Guess what? Guess where I went?" And then all of a sudden you'll say, "Shh." They'll forget, and then you got to do this. Okay. So it was fun. If I had to live my life over again, that's the type of job that I would want, is to that early childhood. So I worked and went to CCB for that. Got enough credit to teach those 2, they're 4 and kindergarten, 5 years old. But with this particular brother, he worked hard because he felt as though that the children in every elementary school should have a computer. So he went on television, and this was like in the early 80s or maybe late 70s. He taught at Martin Luther King for years. As a matter of fact, he retired from Martin Luther King. And he taught also at Malcolm X. From before that, I don't know, because he moved around and did a lot. So he decided, he went on television, and he talked about that and how important that was, but he got it. He won. The children had, everybody did. That's why you see a lot of children with computers now in elementary and middle school. So that wasn't enough for him. He went to, he got a job at that particular time, it was called the city jail. Got a job working there, and he felt as though that at city jail, most of the time they got like maybe about 5-10 years, whatever. When they came out, they had to have something to go on. So he went over there and taught, I think it was 2 years. 2 of the guys came, when they got out, they graduated from Loyola College. One became a counselor. I forgot what the other one did. Okay. So they tussled hard. It's a lot of them that do that time. Anyway, the place now is called Central Brooklyn. Okay. So he worked hard. He didn't want to give up. Even now, sometimes he'll call me and he'll say, "Can you help me do such a thing?" I said, "Boy, look, I don't have time for to do all that." So he's still doing things, and he doesn't stop. So on that note, this is the latest one. He has a granddaughter who wrote this book. Her sister, and it's a funny book. Oh, I knew that. It's about Old Man Joe. So his other daughter was a narrator. So she did the pictures. So I guess he was sliding all this information he slid in this book, because I guess he wanted me to. I don't know. This one right here, my children went to school here. It was Matthew Henson. So you know, Perry and the other ones, Matthew and Perry was the first black to discover North Pole. Okay. So on that note, I think I read out. So enjoy yourself. Have a nice afternoon and all. I'm trying to cover everything, so it was great. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ella, for that information. Our last presenter is going to be Mr. Derek Charles. Mr. Charles, if you'll come forth and tell us about remembering those who sacrificed. Thank everyone for your attention.
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon, Mr. Charles.
What do you want to hear first?
Just go right on through.
You want to hear how I got here and all that?
Whatever you got. The picture that they took of you bring. Did you bring that? That was the sit-in that you were in?
Oh, no, I didn't.
You didn't bring it?
No. I'll talk about it.
You're going to talk about the civil rights.
Anyway, maybe a quick background. We don't have much time.
Let's be respectful, please. Let this person talk.
I never wanted to come to the United States. I wanted to go to the United Kingdom. That's where all my friends, when they were young, that's where they went. But fate turned things around. You guys heard about the movie Oppenheimer?
Yes.
Okay. Oppenheimer's, perhaps, grandfather or great-grandfather discovered all the gold in South Africa. And to give something back to us, the natives in South Africa, he would drive around in open convertible on Keizersstraat, it's Keizer Street, in the middle of Johannesburg, and he'd throw guilders out the back. And we as young kids would run behind them and pick them up. Because a guilder was 60 cents. And with 60 cents, man, you can live home half a month on 60 cents. Anyway, I was back there picking up dime. I was about 5 years old. And then I looked in the gutters and saw a 4 roller skates, just one side. Never seen one before, so I picked it up. Well, the guys told me, oh, you put it on your foot and you push around. I was bare feet, so I put it on my feet and I was pushing it around. And a white kid came up and said, "That's my skate." Holy hell broke loose. His father came up and says, "You're a bad boy, and I'm going to teach you a lesson." And he took the foot that I was pushing the skate in and kicked me with my knee, kicked me on my shin till it bled. I still have the marks to this day. It never went away. That's my first lesson I learned about dealing with Caucasians. What happened after that? They took me and sent me to a place called Onderneming. It's a boys' school for bad boys. And instead of you staying at these schools, they farm you out to white farmers to work free. They farmed me out to the Vanderiks. My name is Derek Charles. My last name was Vanderik, but I changed it around later on in life. Anyway, they sent me to the Vanderiks' place to work. And I was so nice and quiet that the Vanderiks liked me and made me a houseboy. And as fate would have it, the wife of the Vanderlicks, she was English from United Kingdom. He was Dutch from the Netherlands. The war broke out, and she says, I don't like it because you guys like Hitler. And Hitler's going to come over here, and I don't want to be here, so let's go to England. So they took me to England as a houseboy. Sent me to school and everything. I enjoyed it. But to get to America, they moved to Dutch Guyana in South America. They had plantations there. They were pretty well off. And the wife didn't like it, so she said, let's go to next door, which was, at that time, British Guyana. So they went there to live. So I went over there to live with them. Fortunately, in Guyana they spoke English. In Dutch Guyana or Suriname they spoke Dutch. So I enjoyed being over there. I went to school and eventually came to the United States. When I got here, I said, this is it. I'm not going anyplace else. I love it here. Because I heard this is land of the free and home of the brave. I want to be here. I used to work in a place called the Bronx. I didn't know the Bronx, but I lived in Manhattan in Harlem. And on my way home from work every day, we stopped by 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. If those of you who went to New York would know that place. And there was a little coffee shop there called Chock full of Nuts. Anybody ever heard of Chock full of Nuts? Yeah. Chock full of Nuts used to be there. And right outside, a guy used to have a ladder, and he'd climb on the top, and he'd start preaching black history. Black this, black that. And he says, if you want to hear or read more about black history, go to Michael Shujal's bookstore right there in the corner. I said, okay. So I started going there and taking a look. Then I heard about these demonstrations down south and they're beating up black folks and all that. So, hey, I got to check this out. At that time, I was just starting to go to University of Columbia. And I understand 3 busloads were going down south. Three went down before, and then this guy named Carlos Coombs, he got together and we got another bus together, so I went with him. They lectured us in the bus how to behave, to be nice and good and all that. Be good, N-word. He said, okay, we'll go. So we went to Jackson, Mississippi, Meridian, Mississippi, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And then coming back, we were going to stop at Jackson, Mississippi. The other places we went to, all they did was pour coffee down your back and they hit you in the back of your head and they spit on you and stuff. That was easy stuff. It's a big thing. We were told to be passive. That's what Martin Luther King said, be passive. So, but in Jackson, Mississippi, I really got mad. Sometimes I break down when I think about it. They took us all, after beating us up, and put us in a room like your office. About 40 of us. Just imagine the office room you have up there, 40 of us inside, girls and boys. And then tell us, you're foreigners. You don't belong here. We didn't ask you to come, so you're going to stay until we get rid of you. A day and a half we stayed there. And what hurt me more is the young ladies. They weren't programmed that when you go to these demonstrations, you shouldn't have your monthlies. You shouldn't wear a dress. And 3 of the girls had their monthlies right there. We had to take off our undershirts and give it to them so they can take care of themselves. I still cry, I still remember. Whenever I get a chance, I'm referred to these MFs. Anytime I get a chance. I developed a very bad hatred for Caucasians. It took me a while to get over it. But to this day, when I remember, I can't handle it. See me walking around here nice and happy and all that. Just to help other people. Why can't people get along? When we looked at the bus and we saw the hatred in young kids' faces, the hatred. One thing I remember very clearly. We came off the bus at the Greyhound bus stop. I think it was in Tennessee. And the policeman came up there with dogs because we were getting off to go to use the bathroom. And of course, we had to use the colored bathroom. Big sign there saying, colored. And this young man, he was so brave, I couldn't believe it. The police, he came out of the bathroom and he stood up and he watched where the fountain where it says whites only, and he walked over there and bent over and tried to drink. And the policeman brought the dog right at him so the dog can jump on him. But for some reason, this guy was so brave, he just stood there and looked at the dog. And the dog looked at him. The dog did nothing. And I didn't know that a picture was taken of this. Years later, on a program, I saw it. Someone took a picture of it. So I wrote and asked for a picture. And I still have it in my room right now, where the guy is standing here and the dog is looking at him and not doing anything. I got back to New York and then found out that Malcolm X was around. So I said, I'm going to listen to him for a while. He went and listened and says, heck, I'm going to join this guy. Then I went to one meeting and he said, I wouldn't follow Martin King to the bathroom if my life depended on it. I got peed off. I said, I'm going to walk. I was walking out. He says, go ahead and walk out. But you know what? If Martin Luther King and the rest of you knew any better, the damn bus terminal the bus company went bankrupt. Buy the damn thing for $1. And you own the bus company. And you tell the MF and white folks to ride in the back. Then I got the idea. This guy's talking sense. So look, we in Chicago, we got our own rail line, we got our own shops, we got our own laundromats and everything. You could do the same thing here in New York, instead of walking around begging for stuff. But I had to give it up. Anyway.
Okay.
The people you remember. You ever heard of Goodman, Cheney, and Rizzo?
Yes.
I knew very well Rizzo because she was one of the demonstrators with us. But Sherman, Goodman, and her were driving down to Mississippi, and they caught them, killed them, just because they were coming down to demonstrate. You ever heard of Reverend Reeb? Reverend Reeb was from Boston. He went down to demonstrate also. And he laid in front of a bulldozer, and they rolled right over him. There's so many things we went through so we can get a little bit of freedom up here. We need to thank ourselves that we're here, that we can move around and integrate and all that. Because a lot of folks before me and after me going through hell just so we can eat at the lunch counter. Take care.
This concludes our program for this afternoon, and thank you all for coming out. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for participating, and the committee worked hard to try to bring you a intelligent and decent program in reference to Black history. So thanks again so much, and we're going to have final comments from the chairperson of the committee, and that is Antoinette Shelton. Thank you very much.
I want to thank everyone for coming out. I really appreciate it. I have a full house. I'm so grateful. This is my first time being the chairman of a committee, and I had such a good team. These 2 tables on my committee, they were so helpful to me. I thank them so much. I hope everybody enjoyed the food. Did you enjoy the food? Yes. I told the caterer I might use him again. He was good. So thank you for coming out, learning us about Black history. I'm so proud to be a Black American. Thank you. You all have a good day.